evening. On this day in 2014, a change of guard happened in India. After 10 years of Congress-led UPA rule, the BJP's Narendra Modi won a landslide to form a government in New Delhi. Loved and hated with equal intensity, he promised to lead all Indians. And lead he did, taking some bold steps to fix long-standing issues and reshaping India's foreign policy from reactive to proactive. On Gravitas tonight, we look back at 3 years of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and how it has changed the way the world looks at India. I'm Palki Sharma Upadhyay, the headlines this Friday. Beijing pulls up Islamabad after 2 Chinese nationals are kidnapped in Balochistan, says safety of citizens is paramount for the success of the China-Pak economic corridor. Coptic Christians come under attack in Egypt. Masked gunmen opened fire at a bus of pilgrims, killing 26 people and wounding 25 others. Heavy monsoon rains trigger floods and landslides in Sri Lanka, killing 91 people. Mass evacuation underway as government warns the weather could worsen. Trade and climate change in focus as leaders of the world's major economies meet in Sicily for the G7 summit. It's Donald Trump's first and apparently the G7's most challenging meet in many years. Also on the show, our special reports, it's not just in India. Sons-in-law get into trouble elsewhere as well. We focus on the case of Jared Kushner. He's on the FBI's list now. And India has trumped China when it comes to population growth, says a new study. Both countries, interestingly, contest these figures. We will tell you why. But first tonight, Narendra Modi's 3rd anniversary as the Prime Minister of India. From Swachh Bharat to demonetization, from Mann Ki Baat to Twitter Seva, from surgical strikes to strategic tie-ups, Modi's policies and reform measures have created headlines the world over and buzzwords. One of the biggest impact areas has been India's foreign policy. Here's a report.
26th May 2014. For the first time in decades, a single party won an overwhelming majority in parliamentary elections in India. The world stood and watched what came to be known as the Modi wave.
भाइयों बहनों, मैं आप सबको हृदय से धन्यवाद करता हूं, आप सबको प्रणाम करता हूं। आपने एक बहुत बड़ी जिम्मेवारी निभाई है।
He came with the promise of less government, more governance, of cracking down on corruption. He came with the promise of opportunity for all, turning the opposition's chaiwala jibe into their biggest mistake. A tea seller's son held the highest office in India.
मैंने उनको कहा, भाई देखिए, मैं चाय बेचते-बेचते यहाँ आया।
When it came to reshaping India's foreign policy, Prime Minister Narendra Modi hit the ground running. His oath-taking ceremony was a show of India's strength and magnanimity. SAARC leaders, including the errant neighbor Pakistan, were invited.
मैं नरेंद्र दामोदर दास मोदी ईश्वर की शपथ लेता हूं कि जो विषय संघ के प्रधानमंत्री के रूप में
India's gesture was paid back in terror strikes like Uri and Pathankot, but failed to dent Modi's proactive approach. A man once barred from entering the United States got a rock star reception at New York's Madison Square Garden. He reached out to the Indian diaspora wherever he went. From London's Wembley Stadium to the Melbourne Cricket Ground, India's Prime Minister instilled a new sense of pride in Indians abroad. As for engaging with neighbours, the Prime Minister pushed aggressively, isolating Pakistan on the global stage for exporting terror, using Buddhism as a diplomatic tool to reinforce ties with Sri Lanka, satellite diplomacy to establish Indian space dominance while taking South Asian nations along, the Freedom Corridor with Japan to counter China's One Belt, One Road, and expanding the footprint in Africa with a $10 billion loan. From trade to defense to strategic partnership, India has made leaps. Of course, domestic challenges remain, and while some decisions may be arguable, there is no argument about decisive leadership. More than halfway through his first term as Prime Minister, Narendra Modi has steered the Indian ship with a steady hand and a clear vision. Bureau Report, WION.
The Modi government came on the promise of a developed India. So how has it fared so far on key economic barometers? Let's take a look at how India stands today, where India rather stands today as compared to 2014. Fiscal deficit dived from a little over 4% in 2014 to 3.5% in 2017. Non-performing assets remain a big worry. They recorded a spike from almost 4% to 9% in 2017. Foreign investments have dipped by 3 billion. Unemployment stands at 5%. What the Modi government has been able to give the people of India is political stability and a decisive leadership. Foreign portfolio investment from $30 billion to $27 billion. You just saw images of Modi in that conference with the South Asian leaders, what came to be known as satellite diplomacy, one of his hallmark foreign policy approaches, an Indian satellite helping the region and also establishing India's leadership when it comes to space technology. Modi's visits abroad came in for much criticism from the opposition, but also strengthened India's position. The engagement grew over the past 3 years. We've been getting reactions from India all through today, leaders from the opposition and the government speaking, but we're also looking at the larger picture. How does the world see India now? And we spoke to senior British politician and a close observer of Indian affairs, Lord Swaraj Paul, about 3 years of the Modi government. This is what he told WION's London Bureau Chief Mandy Clark.
What was that meeting like?
Very good. I have had, over the last 3 years, a few meetings. Very positive, very enthusiastic, and just want to get on with the job. I mean, he's a human dynamo, energy-wise.
In the order, as you said, of great Indian leaders, where would you place him?
As I say, look, he has been 3 years. To really assess a person and not sort of rush around, you've got to give him time. Otherwise, you are rushing around. One person was Prime Minister for 15 years. Mm-hmm. The other person was twice Prime Minister. You can't just, I mean, it will be sort of psychophancy on my part, but I genuinely believe an answer which I gave at that in Calcutta 4 weeks ago, that he has all the signs of being a great Prime Minister.
That is the reaction from Swaraj Paul, and we've heard from leaders across the world on how they see India under Prime Minister Narendra Modi. One interesting aspect of his leadership has been the ease of doing business. That's something that the government has spoken about. FDI has nearly doubled in the past 3 years from $34,000 billion in 2013-14. It has gone up to $61,000 billion in the year 2017. Competitiveness of India has gone up. The government has said, citing the World Economic Forum's Global Competitive Index, India has gone up from the 60th position to the 39th. So the government's messaging also becoming much stronger in the wake of the big win in Uttar Pradesh and the support for demonetization, that very bold, even controversial move by the Prime Minister to crack down on black money. So where do you think India stands more than halfway into Prime Minister Modi's first term? You can write to us at wionews.com. We're taking a break. Still ahead on this show, the FBI's Russia probe focuses more directly on Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law. We'll tell you more when we come back.